In the frostbitten silence of a mountain pass in the late 16th century, a man sits by a dying fire. His name is Kenji, a ronin without a master and, more importantly, a man without a center. He carries a blade of exceptional craftsmanship, yet the steel has forgotten the taste of the air. Kenji waits. He waits for the perfect season to begin his training. He waits for a sign from the heavens that his path is righteous. He waits for the feeling of certainty to wash over him like a warm tide before he commits to the hard labor of the sword. To the villagers below, he looks like a warrior in contemplation. To himself, he is a man of deep potential, merely biding his time for the right moment of inspiration. But the truth is colder than the mountain wind. Kenji is not waiting for a sign, he is hiding from the weight of the blade. He is a man who seeks the status of a master without the calluses of a student. He desires the respect of men, the gaze of the formidable, and the quiet nod of the elders, yet he possesses a soul that shrinks from the indignity of being a beginner. He is paralyzed by the image of who he wants to be, and in protecting that image, he ensures he will never become it. Kenji's flaw is not a lack of talent, but a surfeit of ego. He believes that respect is a commodity that can be negotiated or found, rather than a byproduct of a life lived in accordance with difficult truths. He wakes every morning and tells himself that tomorrow he will begin the 1,000 strikes. Tomorrow, the rhythm of his breathing will align with the movement of his feet. Tomorrow, he will be the man who does not flinch. But tomorrow is a ghost that haunts the weak. By choosing to wait for the feeling of readiness, he has surrendered his agency to his emotions. He has become a slave to the most fickle master in existence, how he feels in the present moment. Because he feels tired, he rests. Because he feels uncertain, he ruminates. Because he feels uninspired, he remains still. He does not realize that the mountain does not care for his inspiration. The sword does not care for his mood. The world does not respect the man who considers greatness, it respects the man who embodies the mundane repetition of the work when his soul is screaming for comfort. Most men live in this state of perpetual preparation. They are architects of beautiful cathedrals that will never be built. They mistake the study of the map for the journey across the terrain. They believe that if they read enough books, watch enough videos, or contemplate enough philosophies, they will eventually reach a threshold where action becomes easy. This is the great illusion of the modern mind. Respect is not granted to the man who knows what to do. Respect is earned by the man who does what is required when every fiber of his being seeks an exit. The gap between the man Kenji is and the man Kenji wants to be is filled with the fear of being seen as unremarkable. To start is to risk failure. To repeat is to endure boredom. To commit is to die to the 1,000 other versions of oneself. Most men will never be respected because they are more in love with the fantasy of their potential than they are with the reality of their discipline. They protect their ego by never putting it to the test. They remain in the shadows of the mountain, whispering of what they would do if the conditions were right, while the true warrior is already bleeding in the valley. The invisible mental trap is the belief that motivation is a prerequisite for action. It is the most pervasive lie of the human condition. We are taught to wait for the spark, to find our passion, and to act when we are moved by the spirit. But the warrior knows that motivation is a luxury, and a dangerous one at any rate. Motivation is a fair-weather friend that deserts you when the cold sets in. If you only act when you are motivated, you are a child of circumstance. The man who relies on his feelings is a man who cannot be trusted, for his feelings are subject to the weather, the quality of his sleep, and the opinions of others. Strength does not mean the absence of fear or the presence of inspiration. Strength means the total subordination of the impulse to the objective. It is the ability to look at one's own resistance and proceed as if it were a minor atmospheric disturbance. Do not wait for the sun to rise to begin the march. The march is what brings the sun. The man who waits to feel like a warrior will die a commoner. The man who acts like a warrior despite his fear becomes the man the world cannot ignore. Consider the life of Miyamoto Musashi, a man who moved through 60 duels without a single defeat. His greatness was not a lightning bolt of genius, but a relentless, almost mechanical devotion to the way. Musashi did not seek inspiration, he sought the void. He did not ask how he felt about the duel, he asked if his grip was correct. In his writings, there is no mention of finding one's inner fire. There is only the instruction to practice, to observe, and to remain detached from the results. His life was a testament to the power of the small, daily action. He understood that the grand victory is merely the final ripple of 1,000 stones thrown into a pond. While other men were discussing the aesthetics of the blade or the nobility of the cause, Musashi was walking. He was cutting. He was existing in the discomfort of the constant journey. He did not become a legend because he was inspired, he became a legend because he was repetitive. He replaced the volatility of the human heart with the consistency of the stone. Motivation follows action, it does not create it. This is a physiological and psychological law that most men ignore in favor of their own comfort. When you move the body, the mind eventually follows. When you strike the iron, the heat is generated. Action creates momentum. Momentum creates a new state of being. Discipline is the process of reinforcing that state until it becomes an identity. A man does not become disciplined because he is strong, he becomes strong because he has submitted to discipline. The identity of the warrior is forged in the furnace of the things he did not want to do. Respect is the shadow cast by this identity. You cannot chase the shadow, you must build the object that casts it. If you seek respect from others, you will find only a shallow imitation of it. But if you build a life of internal standards that are non-negotiable, respect becomes the air you breathe. It is not something given, it is something that cannot be withheld. The fear of starting is actually a fear of losing the illusion of greatness. As long as Kenji does not draw his sword, he can imagine himself as the greatest swordsman in the province. The moment he draws it and fails to cut the bamboo cleanly, the illusion is shattered. He is revealed as a novice. For most men, this revelation is more painful than the stagnation of the mountain pass. They would rather live as a king in their imagination than a peasant in reality. They protect their ego by avoiding the arena. They tell themselves they are preparing or waiting for the right opportunity, but they are merely accumulating a debt of time that can never be repaid. Time is the only resource that does not renew, and it is quietly siphoned away by the man who refuses to be bad at something until he is good at it. The man who fears discomfort is a man who has already been defeated. He has traded his potential for a warm bed and a quiet mind, not realizing that the mind is never quiet when it knows it has betrayed itself. Identity is not a core that we are born with, it is a structure we build through the accumulation of our choices. Every time you choose the difficult path over the easy one, you are casting a vote for the man you wish to become. Every time you choose to remain in bed when the work calls, you are confirming your status as a man of no consequence. Do not look for a dramatic shift in your life. Do not look for a montage where everything suddenly changes. The change is in the dull, gray moments of the Tuesday morning when no one is watching. It is in the choice to perform the task when your mind is offering 1,000 valid reasons to delay. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. If he stops to wonder why the mountain is still there, he will lose his rhythm. If he stops to ask if he feels like moving stones today, he will fail. He must simply be the man who moves the stone. The world is full of men who are waiting for a permission slip that will never arrive. They want the world to tell them they are ready. They want their peers to validate their path before they have walked it. But respect does not flow toward the man who asks for it. It flows toward the man who has become indifferent to it because he is too busy meeting his own standards. To be a warrior is to hold oneself to a higher court than the opinion of the masses. It is to recognize that the greatest enemy is not the opponent across the field, but the internal voice that whispers for just one more day of rest. That voice is a liar. It is the architect of mediocrity. It must be silenced not with arguments, but with movement. Silence the mind with the noise of the work. We live in an age of aesthetic warriors, men who wear the clothes, speak the words, and post the images of a disciplined life, but who lack the marrow of the thing itself. They are obsessed with the why because they are afraid of the how. They seek the philosophy too. Avoid the practice, but philosophy without practice is merely a sophisticated form of procrastination. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations to impress the world. He wrote them to remind himself to get out of bed and do the work of an emperor, even when he hated it. He did not ask for inspiration. He commanded himself to act. He understood that his duty was not to feel a certain way, but to behave a certain way. This is the distinction between the man of respect and the man of many words. The man of respect has killed the part of himself that requires a reason to be honorable. He is honorable because that is what he is. If you find yourself in the position of Kenji, sitting by a cold fire and waiting for the world to change, recognize that the fire is cold because you have not fed it. The mountain pass is silent because you have not moved. The respect you crave is currently being earned by someone else who is willing to be bored, tired, and uninspired. Do not wait for the feeling of power to begin. Power is the result of the struggle, not the cause of it. The man who embraces the grind of repetition becomes the man who possesses the grace of the master. Strength does not mean the ability to do much. Strength means the ability to do the same thing correctly. Forever, do not wait. The man who waits for the perfect moment becomes the man who realizes too late that the moment was the waiting itself. The warrior's creed is not written in ink, but in the calluses of the hands and the scars of the spirit. It is a commitment to the process over the prize. It is the realization that the only respect that matters is the kind that you cannot take away from yourself in the dark. It is the knowledge that you have not cheated your potential for the sake of a moment's ease. Stop searching for the secret. Stop looking for the hidden wisdom that will make the path easy. The path is hard because the hardness is what filters the many from the few. The respect you seek is located on the other side of the discomfort you are currently avoiding. Your emotions are clouds. Your discipline must be the mountain. Clouds pass, storms rage, and the sun eventually burns, but the mountain remains. It does not ask the weather for permission to stand. It does not wonder if it is in the right place. It simply is. Become the mountain. Replace the question of how do I feel with the statement of what must be done. Commitment is the only bridge between the man you are and the man you must become. Do not look back. Do not look for a sign. The work is the sign. The repetition is the way. The discipline is the identity. Respect is the result. Commitment is the only truth in a world of feelings. Execute the day. Execute the next strike. Execute the silence of the ego. The blade is waiting. Draw it. Not because you are ready, but because you are there.